Hello, welcome to this video in which we'll be talking through how the output you're looking at in your seminar today was produced. So we'll be looking at ANOVA, and first of all we'll be looking at independent samples ANOVA, also known as between groups ANOVA. So the data analysis that you'll be looking at is taken from a fictional study, which is actually part of your portfolio practice part B. And in section 4, so the one that we'll look at first is this one. So there's some background to the fictional study. So we want to look at whether coping style affects people's feelings of general self-efficacy. So we know that we have 90 adults who've taken part in this piece of research. They've been grouped into high, mid and low scorers on task-oriented coping. And then we're looking at the differences between those groups on a measure of self-efficacy, which can range from a maximum of 30 to a minimum of 6. So there's the possible range of scores. So the output that you're actually going to be interpreting and reporting in APA style is here. And so in this video, we're going to look at how that output was produced, but also some of the data assumption checks you would normally do as part of an ANOVA. So this is the data that output has been generated from. This data is available under the video, so if you want to practice this yourself, you can. So the first thing I need to think about is, do I have the right type of data to run an ANOVA? So we need one IV and one DV for an ANOVA. For independent samples ANOVA, each person should only appear once in one level of the IV. So we can see here our IV is group, and we've categorized people as low, mid or high. So you either appear in the low group, mid group or the high group on task-oriented coping. And we have a continuous dependent variable, which is general self-efficacy. So the first thing I need to do is to look at whether that data looks as if it's normally distributed. And I need to do that for each group. So I would go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and then Explore. To tell SPSS to separate out all of my tests and descriptive statistics by group, I need to choose the group variable and transfer that to the factor list, and then my dependent variable, general self-efficacy score, I need to put that into the dependent list. I can leave a lot of the default options as they are, but I do need to go into plots, and I need to choose histogram and normality plots with tests. I could also run a Levene's test at this point, but I won't do that. I'll do that as part of the actual ANOVA. So I'll click Continue, I'll click OK, and SPSS will produce this. So what we can see from the first part is that there are 30 people in each of our groups, which is good, so they're equal numbers. And what I would do next is to look through the information in the descriptive statistics, for example, the mean, the median and the trim mean, to see how similar they are. The more similar, the better. I would also look at the skew and kurtosis values to see whether they look like they're within the appropriate bounds, so -1 to +1. I would do that for each of those variables. And then I would also look at my test of normality. Now, because I have 30 participants, and that's smaller than 50, the recommendations are that you use the Shapiro-Wilk test. So I would look at the Shapiro-Wilk test results for each of my groups. And I can see that for each of these, the value is greater than 0.05. So the tests of normality are non-significant for each group on general self-efficacy. So that suggests that the data is not significantly different from a normal distribution. I would also go through and check the histograms. And looking at those, they do look roughly normal. And I would also go through and check my box plots to see if there were any extreme scores, so outliers. What I can see there is that there don't appear to be any outliers. So those are all good signs. It's quite a quick check of some of the data assumptions, but I'm going to go ahead now and run the ANOVA itself. So I go to Analyze. Compare means. Now there are different ways of doing this, but I'll go through this menu option, and we'll go to one-way ANOVA. The first thing I need to do is tell SPSS how I want my groups to be identified. So that's my task-oriented coping group, my group variable, and I need to transfer that to the factor list. And then my dependent variable, general self-efficacy score, needs to go to the dependent list. Now, because I have 3 groups, when I run a one-way ANOVA, all the ANOVA will do is tell me that there's a difference somewhere between those 3 groups. I actually need to also request for post hoc comparisons to be run in order to know whether there are differences between all 3 groups or only 2 or so on. So I can go to post hoc. So in this example, I'll choose Tukey. There are lots of different tests you can choose, and that depends on a range of factors, but this is somewhere we can start. For further information, don't forget that you have your ANOVA walkthrough. I'll just show you where that is now. And you can see here information on conducting ANOVAs for independent samples and for related samples. So there's more information in this section about post hoc testing and choosing appropriate post hoc tests. Okay, back to our data. So we're selecting the Tukey test for now. I'm going to click continue. And I'm also going to look at options. Now there is more information in your walkthrough about how to use this effectively, but I'm going to request for the moment just descriptive statistics and the homogeneity of variance test. But there are other things around the Brown, Forsyth or Welsh test that you might want to look at, and there's more information in your walkthrough about that. So I'll click continue, and I can leave everything else as it is, and I'll click OK. And this has produced the output you see in your practice portfolio questions in your seminar materials today. Okay, thank you.